right, this is Nina Turner with Disney Generic. All right, Pete, this also, since it's a generic, if you could incorporate the question into your answer, that'd be great.
Okay.
Pete, the first one's up for you. What is the origin story of Soul?
The film the origin of this film really started by thinking about my own kids and wondering how was it that when the moment they were born, we could already tell kind of aspects of what made them unique and specific. Obviously, we didn't know everything until they grew older, but there were definitely things in there like personality attributes that we're all born with. And I know, like, my sisters and I have the same parents. We grew up in the same house. We're very different from each other. How is that? Where does that come from? So we just started thinking around about what makes us who we are. Where did those things get baked in? And we came up with this idea of the great before, a place where our souls were given all those aspects, and went from there.
Kemp, the next one's for you. Who is Joe Gardner and what is his passion in life?
Well, Joe Gardner is a middle school band teacher in Queens, New York, but more importantly, Joe has always been an aspiring jazz musician. If anything, I think if you ask Joe why he isn't doing jazz, he'd just say that getting to his goal has just taken him a little bit longer than he would have expected.
Yeah.
His passion for life has always been music. It's always been playing music, playing the piano, playing jazz.
Dana, introduce 22 and the partnership she has with Joe.
22 is a soul who has not left the youth seminar for some time. She's literally number 22 out of millions of souls. And we've always thought of 22 as a snarky teenager who thinks they know everything. And she definitely doesn't want to go to Earth because it's gross and stinky. And what would people think is so great down there? Joe has, they partner up, and she really gets to experience what Earth and what life really is through Joe. And so that's really where their partnership and bond really forms.
Kemp, how did Pixar capture the true flavor of New York City?
Well, Pixar captured the true flavor of New York City through, the same thing that Pixar does with all their films, which is tons and tons and tons of research, visits, taking photographs of real communities in New York City, visiting New York City jazz clubs, visiting schools in New York. All of the environments that we recreated in the film came from everyone, our designers, our animators, everyone actually going on these trips and participating in the research process, as well as feeding our own very personal aspects of New York. I'm born and raised there, but I think there's no city in America that more people have some experience with than New York. And I think everyone has their own version of their favorite New York things, and we just wanted to get as many of those things into the film as possible.
Hey, describe the Soul World, how you figured out what it would look like, the unique characters we find there.
The soul world is where all of us, before we became flesh and blood, we were given our personality attributes, be that inquisitive or flamboyant or whatever who you describe yourself. So it's basically a bunch of pavilions that souls wander through, and then once they do, they're given traits of curiosity or adventurousness or whatever those. So all that's planted, of course, before they go to Earth, and end up wherever they do in China and Europe, the United States, whatever. Those souls all come from the same place. And I think at our core, all of us are after very similar things in our own lives that we're trying to figure out. What is it that makes life worth living? What are the things that really bring joy and fulfillment to all of us? And I think that's one of the themes that was really heartwarming as we worked on it, was those sort of realizations of how similar we all are, though the world is full of great differences, very meaningful differences, but at the core of it, we're all human.
I know this is a 3-part question for you. How does the music and soul support these two diverse worlds? A, describe working with John Batiste. And B, what drew you to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for the score, and how would you describe the resulting music?
I think one of the most exciting parts of this film is the music, and we wanted New York to have texture and grit, not only in the visuals, but in the sound and in the music. And we needed the soul world to have that ethereal, non-physical, vaporous feeling. And we needed that in the sound and the music. And so working with Jean Baptiste, I mean, what joy that guy brings to every room. His knowledge and history with jazz, and he literally, Pete and Kemp have witnessed this too. He can do impersonations of any jazz musician, like how they play, but through the piano and playing. He's just a really talented, lovely human who brought so much to the film. And on the flip side, Trent and Atticus, they couldn't have been better fit for the writing the score, because they not only were so invested in the story and the storytelling process. Trent really connected with Joe as a character, and I think that they really cared deeply about how the film turned out. And so the process was really cool with them. They would just send cues, and we would have them early and edit, and it really became like such a big part of the storytelling because we had the music early from them. So I don't think we could have found anyone better to do the music in this film than John Batiste, Trent Reznor, and Atticus Ross.
Pete, explain how this isn't a story about pursuing your dreams and reaching for the stars, and how did the story of this film affect how you view life's little gifts?
I think we've all been taught from when we were little that, hey, life is about having these passions and goals and going after them with guns ablazing, and that once you get there, I guess the inference is everything will come into place. And so often that's not how it works out. Whether you make it to that goal or not, it doesn't fulfill all your dreams and answer all your questions. And so this film was really our chance to challenge that deeply held belief that all we have to do is follow our dreams and yet also embrace it at the same time. So I think there, like all things in life, there's complexities to this, and this film was a real gift to us in that it allowed us to really ruminate on this for the 4 years that it took to make.
And for Kemp, Joe Gardner is Pixar's first lead African-American character. What does that mean to you, and how did filmmakers strive to create an authentic character and reflect diverse Black experience?
Well, I mean, Joe being Pixar's first African-American character I can't overstate how important it is to me. It was as a creative person, it was a wonderful opportunity to bring as many of my personal experiences as possible into creating this character and the world of this character. But it wasn't just me. It was an opportunity for everyone involved to kind of craft Joe and craft Joe's world. And I mean, it's a burden is the wrong word. I think that I had a great feeling of responsibility, since this was the first time, to make sure that we did this character and did this story justice. And I love the fact that on working on this film with Pixar, we weren't asked to shy away from that authentic Black experience, from those authentic elements of Joe's life and Joe's culture. And by not shying away from them, I think it even makes the story seem more universal than it would have been. Joe is not a generic character who just happens to be Black. He's absolutely a Black American man from New York City.
Thanks, Pete. What did Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey bring to their characters?
Like all the characters that we have created, the actors bring so much to the role. In the case of Joe, Jamie Foxx has amazing dramatic acting ability comedic chops. He's a great musician. He has this passion and energy. All of those really brought Joe to life. In the case of 22, Tina Fey has this very witty, semi-snarky ability to just kind of cut through anything you want and just skewer it a little bit. She's incredibly smart. And so she not only voiced the character, does a great job in her acting, but also helped to write the film as well. And it was a dream come true to be able to work with her on that.
Great. Kemp, I'm going to jump back to you one more time. Pixar strives to provide equal parts heart and humor. How does Soul reach that goal?
I think Pixar does strive to provide equal parts heart and humor. And I think Soul achieves that goal by doing the same thing that almost every Pixar film does. I think Pixar has a tried and true creative process that involves trying lots of things and failing lots and lots of times until we find the story. We find the story that we're trying to tell. We find that emotional story. I think the humor is always something that we know will eventually come. So that is never the focus in the early stages of making these films. The focus is just on telling the most relatable, powerful, potent story that we can, because there are just so many funny people in-house at Pixar that you could just do a movie with 2 hours of gags and it might be the funniest movie you've ever seen. It's like, that's how many funny people are just kind of floating around. So the one thing we never worry about is being able to add the humor, because Pixar, there's a lot of funny people walking around in the halls of that building.
I agree. Dana, this is a two-part for you. What do you hope people will take away from Soul when it debuts on Disney Plus in December? And can you speak to the unexpected timeliness of this story and message?
I hope people, after they watch Soul, can step away and just take a look at their lives and ask themselves if they're spending their limited time on Earth wisely. I know I strive for that every day and fail, but and I also hope that they can look at realize it's such a universal story, not only for kids and adults, but it's a universal question that we all ask ourselves. And I think, obviously we were aiming for releasing in theaters in June, and we're living in a really rough time right now. We're really excited that the film's going to be seen around the holidays. It feels like we can give a little gift if people choose to watch to families during that time. And so it's a little bit like the theme of our movie. You got to take what you're given and turn it into something beautiful. So here we are. We're going to release on Disney Plus at Christmas, and we're pretty excited about it.